Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Back on another video from NC Hammer 23. I think it's going to be quite funny. This is the dumbest Naruto fan theories, because there's a lot of theories out there, and there have been some really silly ones in the past. Like, I remember when Pain was first introduced, and we saw his, character design, there was a theory I remember where it was like, oh, it's Naruto from the future, coming back in time to make changes, and it's like, oh, okay, that just wasn't a thing at all. So, yeah, let's see what we have in this, shall we? The dumbest Naruto fan theories. This is going to be good.
Naruto's a very long show, with a lot of characters and a lot of plot and a lot of world building. With those things, you're going to get a little thing called theories. Well, actually, a lot of the theories that spin out of Naruto are very good. I would know because I've made a large amount of them myself. There's some really bad ones out there. But that makes sense on a pure number basis. If you have a lot of theories, some of them have to be bad. Yeah. But we're not talking about the just bad ones. No, today we're talking about the worst ones that spun out of Naruto.
Cool.
These are theories that make no sense, nobody wants, or nobody asked for.
Okay,
kind of theories
cool.
that just make you go, no, and also,
why? I love it.
Guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. There's something that every single fan base does. They're a product of not being able to get all of the source material all at one time and shove it into your brain. And
well, yeah, there's so many One Piece theories out there about what's happening in the future and that.
Theorize about what certain people were doing, even when we're not told what they were doing. Theories spin out of open-endedness, and Naruto is made out of open-endedness.
Oh, yeah.
Which is why I would argue that Naruto has probably more theories about it than most pieces of literature or pop culture out there. That
quite possibly. It's huge.
Good. Now, we've talked about theories that didn't come true but should have before, but today we're going to talk about theories that we can't necessarily prove wrong yet, but are insane, and also theories we can prove are wrong and are also insane.
Cool.
And we're going to get started off with a personal favorite of mine, a theory that people still believe in to this day. In fact, it is one of the most popular theories in the Naruto community. Drives me insane because it's idiotic.
Right, okay, go on.
If you've heard of this theory before, but have you ever heard the theory that Madara actually won the 4th Great Shinobi World War? Of course you have, because if you're watching this video, that means you consume Naruto content.
Oh, so everything else is like within the Genjutsu now. Oh.
Talked about this.
Whoa.
For those of you who haven't heard of this theory, let me break it down for you. Essentially, the goal of Madara during the 4th Great Shinobi World War was to enact Infinite Tsukuyomi.
Yes.
Essentially, he wanted to bounce his Sharingan-based Genjutsu
off the moon,
off the biggest, shiniest, reflective thing that looks down upon the entire Earth, the moon. And by essentially making the moon his own Sharingan, he could cast the entire world into a Genjutsu. Tsukuyomi, but infinite.
Yeah.
Because we know Tsukuyomi is a Genjutsu that's used by Itachi that seems to be able to stretch the passage of time. To the person placed in Genjutsu, it feels like 72 hours. But to the rest
so it's meant to be infinite, just illusion.
Madara wanted to use Tsukuyomi Genjutsu,
me.
but stretch it out for the entirety of time, and thus place the entire world in an infinite Tsukuyomi.
Yeah.
And Madara actually enacts his infinite Tsukuyomi. However, there's technically ways to dodge the Tsukuyomi. The way that Team 7 does it is by using a Susanoo. A perfect Susanoo, or maybe even just any kind of Susanoo, can reflect the Genjutsu of the infinite Tsukuyomi. At least that's what they want you to think what happened. See, this theory states that infinite Tsukuyomi was actually successful on Team 7.
Right.
And the second that Madara cast infinite Tsukuyomi, 2 timelines diverged. Essentially, the way that infinite Tsukuyomi works is that it creates a reality.
Interesting theory, right?
And the reality that it creates for you is your perfect reality. There's no war, everybody loves each other, and it's everything you ever want. It's essentially personal heaven. So us as audience who are following Naruto through the storyline would then get transferred into Naruto's infinite Tsukuyomi dream. And Naruto's infinite Tsukuyomi dream is everything after Madara enacts infinite Tsukuyomi. So he envisions them stopping the infinite Tsukuyomi with Susanoo, because that's exactly what Naruto would want. He would never want to be caught in the infinite Tsukuyomi. And then Madara dies. But of course this is what Naruto would want. He would want the war to come to a close.
Well, then what about Kaguya?
Yes, Naruto. Person who's never killed anybody. I mean, he's killed one guy accidentally. But yes, that guy, that main character we're talking about, wanted a grisly and brutal end for Madara. And then, in his infinite Tsukuyomi dream, the Otsutsukis were introduced.
Yeah, like,
an intergalactic
why would
essentially
that
Super Saiyans
happen?
who want to wipe out planets with their chakra sources. And the one that they fight in Seal, and they don't have to kill her, is actually just a part of a greater race of even stronger, super-powered aliens. Okay, but they won the war, they even met the Sage of Six Paths, right? And Naruto got a power-up, and Sasuke
got a power-up, and then they fought each other.
And then Sasuke tried to kill Naruto again, and then he took all the tailed beasts to fight Naruto, and then
why would Naruto want
Sasuke came back to the village
that?
with one less arm, and no will to fix that arm. So thus far, in Naruto's Infinite Tsukuyomi dream, we have Madara dead, a new race of hyper-intelligent, hyper-dangerous aliens introduced, and Sasuke's lost an arm.
But now you're oversimplifying things. The Fourth Great Shinobi World War comes to a close, Naruto's reunited with Kurama, and Sasuke comes home.
Cool.
Yeah, but all that other stuff.
Naruto in its entirety.
Yeah.
No, I'm jumping ahead.
Yeah.
What about the rest of Naruto? Naruto marries Hinata, and he becomes the Hokage. But before that, he did have to travel to the moon because Hinata was kidnapped
the
by
last.
another one of those super dangerous, super intelligent aliens. Because mind you, Naruto the Last is canon to the timeline, and also happens before Naruto was even married to Hinata or became the Hokage. So Toneri Otsutsuki belongs to a clan of Otsutsukis that lived on the moon and then all killed each other, and now Toneri's trying to throw the moon into the earth, which not only implies that there's Otsutsuki.
Yeah, why would this be in Naruto's like perfect world?
In their orbit already. Surely Naruto would have a dream about how the Hidden Cloud was developing essentially planet buster weapons without anybody knowing after signing a treaty of peace, and that the moon would get cut in half by Toneri over Hinata, and Naruto would have to fix it. But Naruto and Hinata kiss. Good job. Could have just had a dream about, you and her getting ramen or something instead of her getting
Yeah, like that's a long roundabout way of getting to it, Naruto. It is.
Okay, so now Naruto gets to marry Hinata and become the Hokage, right? Well, yeah, and then he gets walked down the aisle by Iruka, and it's super nice and cute, and Sai and Ino are married now, and Sakura and Sasuke are married now, and everybody from the Konoha 13 seems really happy. And then Naruto becomes Hokage and has to go to his cloaking ceremony, and his daughter knocks him out cold.
And then
Konohamaru
has to do it for him. Yeah, why would that be his?
Because, Boruto and two more Otsutsukis attack and then basically suck half of Kurama outside of Naruto. And then they find out that Otsutsukis are sent down in pairs and that there's an additional Otsutsuki who was supposed to be with Kaguya. And then Naruto has to activate this new cool mode called Baryon mode.
And then Kurama's
one of his
dead.
friends on Earth. The demon fox that he finally made friends with a couple of years ago. But at least he saved the day and everybody was totally fine, right? I mean, except for Kurama.
Yeah.
Until Sasuke got stabbed in the eye and lost that upgrade that he got from Hagoromo. Oh, and his son, 80% Otsutsuki, and now has to take medicine to not become a full Otsutsuki, and the rest of the Kages want his son murdered. Still got a cute daughter, though. Listen, even if you don't count the events of Boruto as canon towards the Naruto timeline, and just look at canonicity within Naruto,
it still doesn't make sense.
Never made any sense.
No.
The argument comes up a lot that Naruto would want conflict in his perfect life.
Yes.
Naruto, as a warrior, would want a completely peaceful, boring life. And you could say that these statements are even further corroborated by the fact that as the Hokage, he should just be pushing paper, but he actually gets involved in most of the village's fights. Okay, fair. Naruto probably would want some action, some skirmishes. He's a ninja after all. But I seriously doubt that those fights will culminate with Sasuke and Naruto losing their arms. The tail beasts are rejecting
it's so extreme.
Some of the tail beasts are still homies with the humans, like Son Goku and Isobu. Naruto certainly wouldn't dream of Madara's death because he never wants anybody to die.
Yeah.
Why? God's green Earth, would Naruto dream up an alien race that is going to threaten Earth at a high
I mean,
level
it's a bit of a silly thing to come out of nowhere anyway,
Since
but...
we're talking about creepy people with pasty white skin, let's talk about our second bad theory.
Orochimaru?
This one's about Orochimaru.
Okay.
You see, I understand there's a lot of questions around Orochimaru and Boruto, and it's because we don't basically know what he's up to. Orochimaru was the orchestrator of the Konoha Crush, killed the third Hokage, and has killed hundreds of children in immoral scientific experiments. Brought back Wood release, though. But now he's allowed to do research for Konoha as long as he's being watched by high-level jonin like Yamato. Kind of funny how that all came back to him, actually. Why is he allowed to do research? Why was he forgiven, and what is he scheming now? All three of these are really good questions, and we'll address the first two in a separate video, but for the moment, let's just talk about what is he scheming. A logical person would answer that question with the information that we have. He's studying cloning techniques.
Yeah.
He's already cloned himself in Log and Mitsuki, and he's cloning himself to perfect his research of the Snake Sage mode, because Orochimaru's entire life goal is to understand every single jutsu, dojutsu, genjutsu, taijutsu, kenjutsu,
Everything.
on Earth, and one that he wasn't able to figure figure out on himself is Snake Sage mode. You see, Orochimaru was bitten by the Great White Snake Sage, and he did survive the influx of nature chakra, so he was allowed to train in Snake Sage mode with the Great White Snake Sage. However, his body wasn't physically strong enough to take the Snake Sage mode transformation. This is why Mitsuki struggles with it. When he uses Snake Sage mode, his organs fail because Mitsuki is a clone of Orochimaru.
Yeah, so like he's suffering the same like biological issues.
Say about what Orochimaru is doing in Konoha right now. Oh, he's plotting to steal Sarada or Mitsuki's body, of course. Come on, that's not what you jumped to immediately. What are you doing? Let's start with Sarada because honestly, that's where the track
she's an
record points, and
Uchiha.
that's what most people talk about. Essentially, people say Orochimaru is biding his time in Konoha until Sarada becomes old enough for him to make her a host. And if you look at this at an incredibly
So
simplified
weird.
and base level, this makes sense. I mean, Orochimaru tried to take
With Itachi, you'd
and Sasuke's bodies.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he was unsuccessful both times. Because when Orochimaru initiated his living corpse reincarnation jutsu on both Itachi and Sasuke, they used the genjutsu of the Sharingan to essentially flip it onto him. So we know that Orochimaru is interested in the Sharingan and the Uchiha. And we know Itachi's dead, there's no way he's trying it on Sasuke, and that only leaves us one person, Sarada. But let's unpack Orochimaru's motivations for wanting either Itachi or Sasuke as a host. You see, Orochimaru is able to use living corpse reincarnation every 3 years.
Yes.
It's perfect because it takes about 3 years for his host body to start rejecting him. Essentially, if the host is not very strong, the body will begin to break down. Or if the host is taken without their consent, the soul, the heart, and the mind will begin to fight back against Orochimaru after 3 years. Regardless, after about 3 years, Orochimaru needs a new body.
He needs something
So for
else,
years,
yeah.
Orochimaru's been looking for a perfect host, which is what he thought he had in Kimimaro and Sasuke. And Itachi, I guess. A perfect host would allow him to have a host body for more than 3 years. Ideally, it would allow him to have a host body for as long as that host would stay alive. And since Orochimaru takes on the ability of the host, like a Sharingan or Shinkatsu Myaku in Kimimaru's case, an additional Kekkei Genkai would also be incredible with the
It would be
host.
very,
So
very
clearly,
handy.
because Orochimaru has both tried with Sasuke and Itachi to take them over, he would identify Sarada as a perfect host, right? Well, it's
Well,
definitely a possibility.
it seems weird for me, that.
Just so many things. One, it has been roughly 17 years since the end of the Fourth Great Shinobi War. Orochimaru is not allowed to switch hosts. Do you think that Naruto and Yamato are just letting Orochimaru
Yeah, there's no way.
glom on to new people? No. He is very closely watched by Konoha. He's allowed to clone people, yes. That's because, for some reason, Naruto has no ethical problem with that, but he's aware of Orochimaru's cloning. So if Naruto and Konoha have a close eye on Orochimaru and he can't switch hosts, what does that lead us to believe? He's been doing secret switches? Maybe, that's a possibility.
could
Think about
do.
the unusual circumstance that led Orochimaru to his last switch that we know of. See, when Orochimaru threw on the Reaper mask and summoned the Shinigami in the Fourth Great Shinobi World War, he took his sword of Kusanagi and split his own stomach open, essentially fatally wounding both Orochimaru and the host body. It's at this point that Orochimaru switched to something very important, a white zetsu. For those of you who don't remember what white zetsu are, they are just Hashirama cells. They are full Hashirama cell bodies, which means regeneration, massive nature chakra reserves, and wood release.
Well, that makes
On top of
sense.
all that, technically, they may not even age. Doesn't that sound like something Orochimaru might want to hold on to?
Yeah, definitely.
Not to mention, he's been in that white zetsu body for 17 years, which, I don't know how good you are at arithmetic, is a bit longer than
3, yeah.
If he still wants to figure out the Sharingan,
He's done it! Orochimaru made a Mangekyo
Yeah.
Sharingan for Shin. And then he made a bunch of 3 Tomei Sharingan for all the little Shins. I'm sorry, but without a damn near perfect understanding of the Sharingan, how would Orochimaru make a
Mangekyo.
Sharingan?
Yeah,
And
mate,
if he
come on.
wanted a
That's like it's.
Sharingan-wielding host,
What?
why wouldn't he take Shin Uchiha?
he's not a real Uchiha.
Yeah, that's fair, but do you think Orochimaru cares about bloodlines? He wants longevity in Kekkei Genkai. He's
Yeah.
done with the Sharingan. He figured it out a long time ago. But since we're talking about a long time ago, let's get back to Naruto.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
next
come on.
theory is almost as mind-numbingly stupid as our first one. So we all understand that the way that Naruto was brought up in Konoha is borderline unacceptable.
Yeah.
Hiruzen was specifically really trusted with raising
He just
Naruto,
left him
and
to
he just threw
himself.
him in an apartment in the slums, gave him some milk and some ramen, and said, raise yourself. I stand on the take that Hiruzen had a lot more on his plate than raising Naruto because he was the Hokage for both the Second and Third Great Shinobi World Wars and a bunch of other things, but he could have said, like, at least one Jonin to keep an eye on Naruto. Regardless of how you feel about how Naruto was raised by Konoha and Hiruzen, some people believe that this was done intentionally. Some people look at Naruto's upbringing and look at where it brought him and decide that it had to be intentional because where it brought him was so important and incredible. People assumed that Hiruzen was this mastermind who decided
What, they just
that by
did it all on
raising Naruto
purpose?
shittily, he would raise a perfect child. Essentially, the theory states that Hiruzen and the rest of Konoha were purposely as terrible to Naruto as they could be to make him Hokage material.
No.
Which is a take?
Nah.
It's certainly a bold play considering the fact that he had the nine-tailed fox in him, which has already destroyed Konoha once.
Yes.
But to get further into the meat of this theory, essentially the entire village, and Hiruzen specifically, had to decide that they were going to be so mean to Naruto that he was going to lead them. Which is exactly how every
That's
single
not right.
president
What?
up to
No.
now
Why
has
would anyone
been.
want...
I'm sorry,
No.
I mixed up president and school shooter. Why? On God's green earth would Hiruzen look at the child with the fox demon
And go,
inside of him?
let's
and say,
make him
"We
hate
shall be
us."
mean to him to make him a better person."
Yeah.
Naruto is quite
What?
literally within the Naruto-verse a walking nuke.
Yeah.
Within him is contained the
Let's make him hate us.
strongest
Yeah.
by far. A tail piece so strong that the only people ever able to control it were Madara and Minato, and it's already destroyed Konoha once. And there's already a track record of understanding that Kurama can be used for very bad things.
Yes.
Madara put a Susanoo on it and fought the first Hokage. So if we as a village understand that the fox demon inside this little boy could be used to destroy this entire village, once again, why would you try to make an enemy with the fox boy?
Yeah, what?
You could say,
Nick, they weren't trying to make an enemy out of him. They were trying to polish him into a Hokage diamond.
have you ever been bullied or seen somebody been bullied in either real life or in media? How often does that person outside of Naruto get up, they lift their head out of the toilet, and just look at all these bullies and they go,
I'm gonna save all of your lives one day, and then I'm gonna become the class president, and you guys are gonna love me.
never, not even once. It makes even less sense when you think about the fact that there was another Jinchuriki
Yeah.
a village over
God.
going through a very similar circumstance, and he was killing random people. Gaara is the blueprint on how
What?
not
Yeah,
to
how-
raise your
yeah,
Jinchuriki.
like what?
It's how Jinchuriki's third movie. By imparting massive amounts of stress on a child with demon inside of them, you raise a murderer. Only problem is, Konoha, that your child's demon has a demon inside of him tens of times
Stronger
than the child demon in the village over.
Because Gaara was just a
and by the
one-tail.
way, the child demon in the village over still has his dad. This theory makes even less sense when you actually have a fair amount of Naruto lore under your belt. If you've read the light novels and some of the data books, you'll know that the reason that Naruto is treated so shittily in Konoha is actually
Danzo.
Danzo's fault. Danzo, after the Nine Tails destroyed a large part of the village, actually leaked out that Naruto had Kurama sealed inside of him to centralize all of Konoha's hate onto Naruto. Danzo figured that all of Konoha needed something to hate and blame for the destruction to redirect their anger at a singular source. And you can make the argument that
Such a
Danzo
prick.
was in control of Hiruzen to leak this information out. If you know absolutely nothing about Danzo and Hiruzen's relationship, Danzo does not go to Hiruzen for permission.
No.
It's like his whole thing. Also, this isn't what Hiruzen would have wanted. He was actually a really good guy. Danzo
Yeah, he was
could have
nice as hell.
greenlit the Uchiha massacre without a word from Hiruzen. But since we're talking about the Uchihas, let's talk about our fourth theory. Shisui Uchiha is still alive. Making this video is making me upset.
Whoa,
Shisui Uchiha,
what?
for those of you who
How
may
does
not
this
remember,
work?
was Itachi's best friend from childhood.
Yes.
He, like Itachi, was in the root and spied on the Uchiha for Danzo. He
Yes.
also had the Mangekyo Sharingan in both of his eyes, and both of those eyes had the ability called Kodo Matsukame.
Which is
Shisui
so
was an
OP.
incredibly powerful ninja, probably about as powerful as Itachi, except he didn't have a chakra sickness, so he actually probably had a higher ceiling than Itachi. And because Shisui is such a cool and underexplained character that was also very powerful, people have a hard time believing that he's dead. And there's a couple of reasons why. Essentially, Shisui's corpse is never found. And that's
Right.
suspicious if you ignore almost everything about Naruto in its entirety, because you'll know if they found Shisui's corpse, they would be able to do something with it. And what is that something? Pause the video, tell me in the comment. Did you guess Edo Tensei? In Naruto, you have to make corpses disappear forever unless you want them coming back later. And guess who Kishimoto didn't want coming back to Naruto later on? Shisui. Why, you ask? Probably the reason he killed him off in the first place, the Kodo Matsukame.
It's ridiculous.
If Shisui was brought back, specifically with Edo Tensei, he would have both of his MS. Doesn't matter that he handed them out at the end of his life. Itachi came back with both of his eyes.
That's
and Sasuke
true,
is wearing them in his face. On top of that, Edo Tensei people regenerate instantly, which implies that there's a large chance that Shisui would be able to recover in much faster than 10 years from the uses of Kodo Matsukame. But even if it would take 10 years for Shisui to reuse Kodo Matsukame in either his left or right eye, the fact that he could use it twice if he was brought back during the war arc would have changed everything. He literally could just use it on Kabuto and Madara. Thanks for coming out. They had to disappear his body. Why do you think they conveniently never found Jiraiya's body until Boruto? It was because they didn't want to bring him back. Kishimoto literally said this. The second point is the fact that Shin Uchiha has Shisui's chakra in his arm. Well, at least that's what people who believe in this theory want you to think. Essentially, this point comes from when Ao, you know, the guy from the Hidden Mist who got a Byakugan from Hyuga during the Third Great Shinobi World War, the right hand of the Mizukage. When he sees Danzo's right arm, he sees Shisui Uchiha's chakra. And that arm came from Shin Uchiha. So people make the connection that Shin Uchiha must have Shisui's chakra, which is ignoring a lot of very important parts, like the fact that Danzo has the Kodo Matsukame in his face.
Yeah, he used it.
Having the Kodo Matsukame, Shisui's eye inside of your body would impart to you a small amount of Shisui's chakra. As to why Shisui's chakra was in his arm, I can only assume because his arm was filled with constantly activated Sharingans.
Yeah.
And Shisui being an Uchiha's chakra would probably go to the Sharingans. This makes sense because the other place that Ao saw Shisui's chakra was Danzo's face. So
where the Sharingan is.
Shisui's chakra just bled from Danzo's eyeball to his arm, or that Shin Uchiha somehow is either Shisui or met Shisui, got some of his chakra in his arm, and then gave that arm to Danzo. On top of that, they quite literally wrote a light novel about Shisui's death. People were so up in arms about Shisui dying and had so many theories about how he's not dead, they literally wrote the Itachi light novels and explained Shisui's death. Shisui is not only poisoned by Yoji Aburame, with so much poison that it will kill him indefinitely, he tells Itachi to murder him after pulling out his only remaining eye and shoving it in a crow. And then Itachi murders him and pushes him down into the waterfall, and that's what activates his MS.
Oh yeah, this man got a shotgun, yeah.
Canon. So, not only was Shisui poisoned and then killed by Itachi, he was pushed into a waterfall. Blind. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like,
he's gone.
Yeah, there's no way.
Isn't necessarily stupid, I just don't like it. For this last theory, we're jumping back to Boruto. And once again, we're talking about Sarada, but not with Orochimaru in the conversation. You see, there's a theory amongst a sect of Boruto fans out there that Sarada is going to follow the steps of her father. And by following the steps of her father, I don't mean by being a poorly written edgelord. No, they think that Sarada is going to become an antagonist. Which is a possibility, once again.
Don't see that happening, no.
So many things. I mean, Sarada does look up to her father, but not as much as she looks up to somebody else. Naruto, the literal golden child in the Hokage of the Leaf. Sarada wants more than anything to be Hokage, and she most likely will be. On top of that, she's also the first ever Uchiha to awake the Sharingan through love. Every other Uchiha in the history of Uchiha has awoken their Sharingan using
hate.
Sarada awoke hers by seeing her father. 3, she's very even-headed and the moral compass of Team 7. You could argue that she's seeing the rest of Team 7 get stronger without her, with Boruto getting the marking and Mitsuki having Snake Sage mode. But even if she was to go to Orochimaru for a curse mark, that wouldn't be her defecting from the village right now, because he's right down the road. Sarada is supposed to represent a new generation of Uchiha who want to help the village. She is the physical representation of the cycle of hate closing. If Sarada were to become an antagonist, the cycle of hate would continue. That was ended when the Indra and Ashura reincarnations came back together in Naruto and Sasuke. So thematically, having Sarada become an antagonist would go against everything Naruto wrote. It wouldn't make any sense. But it could happen, what do I know? Just a guy yelling into the void. But if you like my screaming, guys, please, for me, like this video.
That was really good. That was a really good video.
Listen, I'm not saying that I wish Boruto was a bad dream too, but sometimes you gotta wake up to reality.
That is an interesting theory, though, isn't it? That, like, he did cast it, and then we're seeing Naruto's Infinite Tsukuyomi dream, but then the stuff that happens in it, if it was the case, just doesn't make sense. Yeah, like, why would he randomly have all this horrible stuff happen to him in between everything? Like, what? That's insane. But I did like that. That was really cool. I was actually going to check out the most dangerous jutsus in Naruto Explained, so I'll probably do that next. But I just seen that and I thought that'd be quite funny to check out. So that is what happened there. So cool. Anyway, thank you to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of every video I upload, link in the description to the Patreon page. $1 a month is all that helps support the channel. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you guys very much for that, and thank you all for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos, and I'll see you guys, all you guys, next time.